which is why he's the male lead category winner for me. I'm definitely like, I'm playing a piano. They broke up. And if I want to think that he looks like Matthew McConaughey, I'm going to do it. You know, the performance like, of course I made a list. Leveling up here, my friends. Sorry, not sorry. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse, and welcome to today's video, which is a companion video to one I posted back earlier in February, which was my favorite female leads in a book recommendation video. And today we're going to do my favorite male leads in a book. So the first video I made was actually requested, I was going to say recommended, requested by a viewer, and I loved the idea. And literally while I was filming it, and I know I said something I want to say like towards the end of that video where I was like, I'm having an idea. This was my idea. So while I was doing the intro of that video, I definitely felt like I was having this Oscar moment where I was announcing like best performance by a female lead in a book. And I was like, I could make a bunch of videos that are sort of reflective of these award show categories. So it's award season. I'm not as diehard awardsy as I used to be. Like I used to center my day around the red carpet and the awards, and I had like seen a whole bunch of the movies and the TV shows. So I'm less invested in some ways, but I still completely love award shows and I still watch them. And many acceptance speeches make me cry. So I just enjoy the entire, like, I love the red carpet. I love seeing what people are wearing. I love seeing who shows up with who. And I just have a fun time watching them. So all that to say, I'm gonna make a small series of videos that are inspired by some of those categories. And today we're doing our best male lead in a book. So this is a mix of romance and thriller. I'm taking a double look. Yep. And all of these characters are just ones that I love. These are some of my favorite male characters who lead our books. And maybe there'll be more of these like kinds of videos in the future because there are so many characters that I absolutely love. But when I started to make a list of the books that I wanted to talk about, because of course I made a list, these are the ones that jumped to mind immediately without me doing any kind of research. So to me, that screams, these are my faves. So let's dive into it and we'll see if any of my faves are your faves. So the first book I have is Ragdoll, and my first favorite male character is William Wolfe Fox. So he is a detective, and him and his former partner wind up getting called to this brutally gruesome crime scene where it is 6 people's body parts sewn together to make one person. And this is dubbed the Ragdoll in the press. So why do I love Wolfe? I love Wolfe because he is simultaneously so darkly humorous and so complicated and so smart in his detecting of what is going on here. He is someone who will do anything to solve a case. He puts himself at risk. He is fiercely protective of people in his life. He makes choices. He's got a complicated past that darkens him in some ways that impacts who he is as a character, and we start to get all of that as the book goes on. But I just thought he was such a refreshing character, and I definitely think the dark humor to him is what really seals it for me, because we get so many really dark and disturbing scenes in this book. And one of the reasons I held off on reading this for as long as I did is because I had heard how gruesome the murder scenes were, and they are, make no mistake about it. But his character brings not inappropriate levity, but like the perfect dark humor to difficult situations. And I just think he's wickedly smart, and I really just enjoy him as a character. And I think parts of what I love about him are spoilers to the book, so I can't talk about it. But this is the first in a 3-book series. I still have book number 3 to read, and I've kind of intentionally held off on it because I don't want my time in this series to be over. But I absolutely loved this book. I just thought it was so well done. I did do a mix of physically reading it and the audiobook. I think the audio gives literal great voice to Wolfe, but he just completely grabbed me. And I feel like there's such a blend of like hardcore detective with like a completely human, vulnerable character at the same time. And again, that humor. I love a man who makes me laugh. So my next favorite character is Oliver from If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. So this is a dark academia. This is set in dual timelines. We get a group of 7 friends who are at this elite conservatory called Delashare Classical Conservatory. They are all Shakespeare students. And their senior year, one of the friends is murdered and Oliver has gone to prison for it. So we get a conversation between Oliver and the detective who is responsible for putting him in prison on the first page of this book. And Oliver agrees that when he is released, he will tell the detective what really happened that night. Because our detective has some suspicions, and there's an exchange where the detective says, "You know, I don't think you belong in here." And Oliver says, "That doesn't mean you think I'm innocent." So Oliver agrees to tell him the story. And I just loved everything about this book. So kind of in a secret history way, Oliver is a little bit of our outsider in this group. And this is a group of students who, again, they are Shakespeare students. So we get them literally acting out Shakespearean plays in this book. And I did a mix of audio and listening to this as well. And the parallels between what's happening in the Shakespearean plays and what's happening in real life, and how each of them sort of plays a role both in the plays and in real life. And how did they go from the best of friends to one of them being murdered? And I just loved Oliver so much. And I think both in the past and present timelines, there is just something about him in his vulnerability, in his sheer love for his friends, and in the complexities of what happens between this friend group and this dynamic. And I just loved him so much. I just absolutely loved him so much. This is a book that I have only read once, which kind of shocks me because I love it so much and I talk about it kind of obsessively that I need to read it again. But he has completely stuck with me since I did read it. And I think he's just such a great character. There's so many different layers and levels to him. And I think it's just such a beautifully well done book. And obviously this book would not exist without Oliver in it, but he just elevates it to such a different level. And I completely connected with him on different levels as well. Leveling up here, my friends. But I think he's just an outstanding character and someone that I was 100% rooting for and invested in. And I just think he's just amazing. Just love him so much. And I have to change my battery, so hold please. Okay, I had to change my battery, so I'm fairly certain I look a little bit different, but that's okay. So, okay, we're all friends here. All right, next up, I have Fool Me Once by Ashley Winstead, and my favorite male lead is Ben Lederman, who is the lovers to enemies to lovers love interest in this book, and I love Ben Lederman. I think he's absolutely amazing. He is what my dreams are made of. I'm not gonna lie. I just totally love him. So this is about Ben and Lee. They dated in grad school. They broke up. And then 5 years later, they are reunited when they are coming together because Ben is working for this. Let me get it correct here. He is working as a policy expert for the most liberal governor in Texas history. And Lee, who works for a electric car company, is trying to get a clean energy bill rolling. So the two of them wind up having to work together to make it happen. So this is about all of their past stuff, all of their present stuff. And Lee has basically sworn off men since things exploded with Ben. She goes out, she has a great time. She definitely enjoys her flings here and there, but she is not looking for long-term true love anymore because she doesn't believe in it anymore. Thank you very much, Ben. And Ben is moved on. He is in a new relationship and he still is bearing some scars from his relationship with Lee. So as the two of them start to work together, as you can imagine, the love and affection that they had for each other is still underlying a lot of the pain and rage that they have for each other. And it's just great watching this relationship sort of reconnect and how they cope with the past, how they sort of can't deny the connection that still exists between them, and how they try to have this working relationship and work together on sort of mutually beneficial jobs. That doesn't make sense. They're both highly invested in getting this clean energy bill passed. So they are both working towards a common goal. That's a better way of saying it. And how they have to work together because they're both very passionate about getting this done. So the banter between the two of them, I think, is so on point. The humor in this book is so brilliant. There are so many things about Ben that I just love. Some of them would create spoilers for this book, but I feel like his love of who Lee is as a woman, what she's passionate about, his respect for her passions, his appreciation for just her complete commitment to her job and what she's working towards, Like, he very much loves everything about who she is as a person. And he has a lot of complicated feelings about her because he is in a new relationship and things have happened in the past that have hurt him. And I just love like the way they talk to each other. I just love, again, their humor and their banter and their connection. And he's just such a warm and loving person, but not someone without faults. He's not perfect in any kind of a way. He is human. He's made his own mistakes. And I think there's just a level to him that is trying in some ways. And I can't, I was like thinking of an example, but I'm like, I can't talk about that. But there's such good humor to him, like the things they're doing when they're trying to get this energy bill passed and different like events that they're going to and trying to get signatures on different like ballots and things like that. Like he's a good sport in a lot of ways. And I just really, really enjoy him. So I just think he's a great love interest. I think they are very perfectly matched. And I just love me, you know, just a smart and funny man. Again, these men all bring humor to the table, although Oliver's not particularly funny, I have to say. He's not actually particularly funny, but I love him to pieces. But like Ben, also his humor. I just love me some humor. Which also brings me to my next favorite person, which is Charlie Lastro from Book Lovers by Emily Henry. So he is our, you know, arch nemesis of our main character, Nora, in this book. Charlie is a very prickly dude. They both work in publishing in New York City. And then they wind up running into each other in this very small town in North Carolina called Sunshine Falls. And Nora and Charlie sort of can't escape running into each other. And they have that, again, kind of enemies to lovers banter. They have such great sarcastic humor with each other. And Charlie is just, again, like such a dry, perfect humor to him. But he is also someone who has, again, his own baggage, his own complicated background, his own ambitions, things he's not willing to compromise on. There is a genuine warmth to him as well. There's a genuine caringness to him. There's some wonderful steam in here. And I just really enjoy his whole demeanor. I just love sort of the prickly, sarcastic dude. And I think he just brings like such a great like counter to Nora in that they challenge each other and they both keep one-upping each other, but like it's like a fair fight when they're bantering with each other. But he's just such a strong partner for her in this book, and there's so much that they have in common, obviously, and then there's so much they don't even know about one another. But I just think he's a great, not even a foil to her, but just like why can't I think of words today? He's a great compliment to her. They complement each other in so many different ways. But I really enjoyed kind of as his layers peeled away and seeing sort of who he is, but also not apologizing for who he is. And again, there's just something about that snark and humor that absolutely, I don't know, I just love it. I love that kind of a relationship, and maybe that's just like what I enjoy in a partnership as well. And again, you always kind of have to make me laugh, but I think that rivalry that turns into, you know, complete respect and love for one another as well is always something I'm interested in. And he just makes me laugh. He really, really makes me laugh. And a guy who works with books, I mean, come on, you guys, come on. Dream scenario. All right, let's get into something a little bit more murdery. Not that I need murdery things, but Reed Markham is the FBI agent in the Joanna Schaffenhausen series. This is the Ellery Hathaway series. The Vanishing Season is the first one. There are currently 5 books out in this series. I am up to book number 3. So in this book, we are following Ellery as our main female character. She is a police detective in Woodbury, Massachusetts. And she is a survivor of a serial killer when she was a teenager. So Reed Markham was the FBI agent who rescued her from this horrible serial killer. And the two of them have obviously always had a little bit of a connection because of their relationship over this traumatic thing that happened. So Reed went on, he wrote like this best-selling book about capturing a serial killer. He's moved up in the FBI. He's amazing at his job. And when this book opens, some weird stuff is starting to happen where Ellery lives that reminds her of the weird stuff that happened to her when she was younger, even though that serial killer was captured. And she winds up reaching out to Reed for some help. So the two of them wind up pairing up, in this book and then in the subsequent books to kind of solve some crimes and get some stuff done. But what I really love about him is he is like so smart at his job, so committed to his responsibilities as an FBI agent. And there is great family love with him. There is great, I feel like he feels responsible for Ellery in a lot of ways. And the connection between the two of them is so obvious in everything, and the affection between the two of them, and not like in an inappropriate way. I'm not saying it because, again, she was a teenager when she was kidnapped by the serial killer, but there's a bond between them and a mutual respect between them. And I think there is a real caringness between the two of them. And there's a trust in this relationship that exists because of what happened in the past. But I feel like in this book, and then, like I said, I read book number 2, I'm up to book number 3, we really start to get to see who Reed is as a person, and you know, why he's in the FBI and why this job is important to him. And he is definitely someone who puts the job first and will sacrifice other things, and has a very complicated relationship in his personal life. And it's just his sheer commitment to catching the bad guys and doing the right thing. But I really enjoy him as a character, and I think there's just such a strength and, again, a warmth to him in a lot of ways. And I don't know, there's just a little something I can't quite put my finger on or put into words, but I really enjoyed him as a character, and I can't wait to read more of him. And I know there's some more digging into his past in book number 3, which I'm excited about. So we'll definitely be continuing in the series. Yes, I have all 5 books. Some more read to come. One of my more recent reads, and somebody that I absolutely loved, is Ernie Cunningham from Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I almost said by Ernie Stevenson, by Benjamin Stevenson. So Ernie Cunningham is one of the sons in the Cunningham family, and he is our narrator through this completely twisty story about his family who is reuniting for the first time in a few years. And they are reuniting at this mountainy, snowy ski resort in Australia, and a dead body shows up on the ski slopes. And what we know in the first line of this book is that everyone in Ernie's family has killed somebody. And then he goes on to say, which I just love a little bit more. Get my page started, right? Get my page in the right place. Some of us, the high achievers, have killed more than once. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it's the truth. And when I was faced with writing this down, difficult as it is with one hand, I realized that telling the truth is the only way to do it. So he winds up going through everyone in his family intertwined with what's happening in the present day, and how when a dead body shows up on the ski slope where his entire family is together for a reunion, it's kind of like, which one of us did this? So there is amazing humor to this book. This is one of those books, and I shouldn't even say it's one of those books because I don't even know if I've read another book like this. He simultaneously is in the story with his family, but then he breaks the fourth wall and talks directly to us as the reader. And he will make little side comments where he will like reference maybe something scientific and be like, the insert something scientific. And then he'll say, for the record, I didn't actually know that that's what it was called. My editor told me that later. So in the moment, I actually just called it this instead. But just to be factual, it's actually called that. So it's like he's giving you these funny little nuggets along the way. And the whole premise of this book is that he is going to honor the golden age of detective rules. He is going to be a reliable narrator. He is not going to hide things with us. He is going to explain things to us as they come out, or like as they start to happen, and tell us the relevance. And he'll say things like, this is the point in the story where this should happen. Or something will happen, he'll be like, I know you're thinking it's this, but, or I know I told you this, but in actuality, it could be that. So like, it's playing into all the tropes, but it's having fun with all of them. And even early in the book, like a couple pages in, he's like, if you are literally just here for the murders, these are the pages where either a murder happens or is revealed, and he lists a bunch of page numbers. So it's very tongue-in-cheek, it's very funny, but I find him to just be completely delightful and just so fun to take us on this ride. He also, as you can tell, brings great humor to the situation. He has some very complicated family relationships, as I feel like is also very obvious. But he is someone I was 1,000% rooting for, and I loved him, and I put my faith in him, and he told me he wasn't going to lie to me, and I trusted him. But I totally enjoyed this book, and I thought the voice of this narration was so perfect and so on point, and I just loved him so much. He was completely delightful. I don't know if this is a one and done kind of a book or if there's more to come, but I think it was just so well done. And I loved the fact that he talked to us and broke the fourth wall. For me, in that Fleabag way, it totally worked for me. And I also just loved the underlying mystery that was taking place here. So huge fan of this one as well, as you can tell. And I just thought he was so funny. I feel like funny is a big theme. It's either like you're funny or you are all in. You are all in. Someone who is all in is Jake Brigance from A Time to Kill by John Grisham. This is his first book. I haven't read all the Grishams, but as of this stage, this still is my favorite of all of his books. And I think anyone who has seen the movie, can we all just have a moment of silence for Matthew McConaughey? Thank you very much. I have a very hard time not seeing Matthew McConaughey when I think of Jake Brigance, but I still would put Jake on here even if it wasn't for Matthew McConaughey. But he doesn't hurt the situation. So Jake is a lawyer. This book takes place in rural Clanton, Mississippi. So we have little Tanya Haley was brutally raped, beaten, and left for dead by two drunken and remorseless men. The rapists are almost immediately caught at a roadside bar where they have been bragging their exploits. When the men appear in court days later, Tanya's father, Carl, bursts out of the courthouse basement and executes them with an assault rifle. Murder or execution, justice or revenge. Carl trusts his life to only one man in town, the local criminal lawyer Jake Brigance, who dreams of famous cases. Headlines in the big time. Jake is about to face the fight of his life, and he knows it. Not only is he up against Rufus Buckley, a tough, ambitious district attorney who realizes that a murder conviction could help him gain higher office, but he has a much bigger problem. The rapists are white, the judge is white, and Carl is black. This is a trial sure to change forever the lives of everyone involved. So I read this to kind of set the tone for this book and also to not give too much away for this book. But this is as much a legal thriller as it is a conversation, as you can tell, about race, about how this town becomes divided over this case, how Jake and his family become targets, how their lives are in danger, the people who rally around Carl versus the people who are rallying around the district attorney and rallying around the people who are looking for Carl to go to prison forever. You have so many different levels of media that come in. There is such great commentary in this book, but for me, for Jake, who is someone who is there for his client, who is going to do everything he can for his client. He is a father himself, and he is willing to put so many things at risk, and he is so willing to do his job, to fight for his client. And there are so many complicated issues to this. There's so many complicated emotions in this book. I think this is so well written. I think it's so well done. And Jake, to me, is just such a dynamic character in so many different ways. And as you can guess, you know, he is getting threatened and he is up against a lot of hardship in here, and he just will not back down. And there is such a strength to him. And there are, you know, he makes choices. He doesn't always make the right choices. He creates a lot of conflict and issues within his family, but he has committed to Carl that he is going to fight for him, and he is going to see this case through until the end. So there's just, again, there's such a strength to him, but there's such a love for him, for family, and such a connection with Carl and his family. And I just think it's such a well done book. It is also very, very heavy, like literally and physically. But I just think Jake is such a dynamic character, and I have not read this book in forever. I have the sequel to this book, which came out whenever ago, which is like 20 something years later. And then there was a third book that was written that I don't know if it's a prequel to A Time to Kill or if it's like an in-between book. I don't even know, but I need more Jake in my life. But I just think he's such a great character. And I just, again, this is my favorite of Grisham's books. And I think there's a reason, obviously, that Jake gets multiple books too. But there's just something about him that I very much admire. And I love him so much. I just absolutely love him so much. And if I want to think that he looks like Matthew McConaughey, I'm going to do it. Not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, my next book is Beartown by Frederick Bachmann, and my character is Benji. So I have not yet read the winners. My goal, plan, intention is to reread Beartown, reread Us Against You, Us Against You. I always double check it. I always want to say it's Us Against Them, Us Against You, and then read the winners. So I don't know where Benji's story goes, but in the first 2 books, he is just such an incredible character. And again, someone with so many complicated things going on in his life, so many complicated relationships, and there is such a strength to him. And I just love him so much. There is a vulnerability to him. There is a great love for his family and his sisters. And when his best friend is accused of sexually assaulting the hockey coach's daughter at a party, he is forced to sort of confront what is true, what did his friend do, you know, whose side are you on? And this is a book where the town becomes very much divided between the girl who has come forward and said that she was assaulted and this superstar hockey player that this entire town reveres and loves and can't even imagine that he could do such a thing. And Benji is torn between where his loyalty is and who he believes. And it's just him coming to terms with so many different things, and things that he ignored in the past, and things that he has turned maybe the other way to, and things that he has been, how do I say this without saying it? Things he has been witness to. And it's really kind of a little bit of a reckoning in a lot of ways. And he, again, is a character that has like such a beautiful mix of strength and vulnerability to him. And I feel like we get a lot of Benji in Beartown. We get so much more Benji in book number 2. And I just love him so much. And he is just like one of these characters that I want to come through the pages and like wrap in a hug and be there for. And, you know, again, he is someone who makes decisions, and they are not always the best ones. There are consequences to things that he does. He is someone who is fearless at some times. He is someone who is scared to death at other times. And I feel like he is someone who is also trying to find himself in a lot of different ways. They live in this really small town, and he's got a lot of complicated history and relationships and with his family, and a lot that he is struggling with. And I just love him so much. And there's just so much, I think, that Frederick Bachmann gives to this character, and so much depth and like so much story to tell for him. And he's another one of these characters where, again, on the surface, it's one thing, and the more you get to know him and the more you peel away, the more you get to see. And man, did I cry during all of these books. I feel like I could cry just thinking about it right now, but he's just such an amazing character. And like, they're high school seniors, like they're so young when this book starts. And you know, you're at a point in your life where like you think you're immortal and you think you know everything, and something happens that sort of makes you question everything. And I have found watching Benji's journey to be really impactful, and I just am so curious to see what happens next for him. But I love him so much, and I just outstanding, just absolutely outstanding. And then the last book I have is Defending Jacob by William Landay. So I'm going to pop it up here. I have it. It's just not readily available on my bookshelf, but I read this a few years ago, and I read it because the TV miniseries was coming out on Apple TV, which I really wanted to watch, but I was like, I have that book, I need to read it first. So this is an outstanding book. This is also an outstanding TV miniseries, and I thought it was so well done. So my love in this book is Andy Barber. He is our main character, obviously, because it's our leading men, is what the entire video is about. I don't know why I keep having to articulate that he's our leading man. So Andy is the assistant district attorney in Newton, Massachusetts. And when this book opens, we have fast forwarded in time where Andy himself is being questioned in a grand jury. And then we go backwards in time and find out. So the core of this book is that Andy's son, who is how many years old? 14. His son, Jacob, is accused of murdering a boy in his class. So a boy in his class is found dead in the woods one morning before school. And Andy initially responds to the scene of the crime because he is the ADA. And as things start to develop, his son winds up being accused of the murder. So Andy himself obviously can no longer be on the case, but he is forced to confront the reality of, could my son have done this? I can't even comprehend that my son has done this, and I'm going to find out the truth. So he is again, I feel like these characters kind of in a similar way to Jake Brigance, but Andy is so driven by, this is like, what lengths would you go to protect your family? Do you have to confront the reality of what your child maybe has done? How do you wrap your head around this? Do you even really know your child? And sort of everything you thought you knew coming crashing down. And then as the ADA, he obviously has been so respected within the police force, and how that dynamic has completely shifted, and how everyone is now, he's the family being investigated. His child is the one being investigated. And he has obviously made an entire career of investigating other people. And now kind of the tables have been turned on him and his family. So he is using what he knows and his skills to try and investigate this murder on his own. And it just puts so many things into question for him. And what I loved about Andy is him trying to kind of unofficially do his job, because obviously he's not on the case anymore, trying to cope with how this is impacting his family, trying to protect his son and be there for his child. And also you have the family of the child who was killed, and all the rage that is coming at Andy and his family, and how he navigates that. And I just think he's such an interesting character, how he navigates all of these different things. And again, you have someone who is dealing with pain and grief, and there's such a strength to him at the same time. There is such a humanity to him. There are so many complicated things going on, trying to wrap your head around all of this stuff, trying to keep a clear head about things, trying to defend your child as he is being accused of this horrible, heinous crime. And what do you do? What do you do? And I just, the unraveling of all of this story, I think, is so well done. It is a very slow burn of a book. It is a very impactful book, I think, and it definitely raises a lot of questions of, again, that what would you do? And I just think he's such a well-drawn character. And they did age him down a little bit for the TV show. Thank you, Chris Evans, which I'm not mad about it, but I, again, could not picture Chris Evans in this role, because I knew that when I went in reading the book. But I think Chris Evans does a spectacular job, and this show is true to the book. I think it's very atmospherically done. I think it really conveys a lot of the pain and the emotion of the book. And I just think there's like such a darkness to this book, and there's also just great investigation and great mystery and really complicated characters. And I really just was so invested in Andy and in his journey. And I think as a father, he is just in such a difficult position. And as, you know, kind of an ADA on hiatus right now, because he can't be on this crime, in such a difficult point with his career, and kind of wanting to go after the truth, and not maybe wanting to find out the truth of the situation in some ways. So it poses a lot of complicated questions, and I just loved it so much. I just loved it so much, and I really, really enjoyed him. So I would highly recommend, very much like with A Time to Kill, I would read this first if you haven't already, and then go watch the show if you haven't already. I do very much think if you have seen either of those movies or shows, you could absolutely go back and read the book and still get so much more out of them, because there's obviously only so much you can put onto the screen. But spectacular, spectacular. And I just think he's a tremendous character. So that's going to do it for some of my favorite male leads in a book. But let me know, who are your favorite male characters? I could keep going. I mean, like Benton Wesley from the Patricia Cornwell series, I absolutely love. Like, there's just so many other ones. But out of the gate, this is what I was thinking about. These are the characters where, again, I think they're, whether it's like a romantic lead, whether it is just someone with dark humor, whether it is just a complex character that I'm absolutely drawn to, and the emotion of the character that I'm absolutely drawn to. It's just, there's something about all of these guys that I absolutely love, and they just absolutely made these books just outstanding reads for me. So on that note, let me know your outstanding male leads, and stay tuned for some more videos sort of in this vein, and then some other videos in between. I'm definitely like, I'm playing a piano. But I will see you guys in another video really soon. So until that happens, take care, everybody. Thank you so much for being here as always. Truly appreciate it. And I will see you guys soon in that next video, which I think I already said. So there we go. Bye.